want to talk about style for a Gaelic castle, and right off the bat, I want to talk about dynamics. Now, how many grade 1 pieces of music use 4 or even 5 tiers of dynamics? Not very many, but this one does. Why is it 4 or 5? Well, I'll go over that in just a second. We have piano, we have mezzo forte, we have forte and fortissimo. That looks like 4, but we don't have any mezzo piano. But if we want to build that into the system, we got to think about 5 tiers too. So 4 tiers, 5 tiers, okay, whatever. But let's figure out what's what. From the beginning, we're mezzo forte, and then we also have a mezzo forte section at 27. So that's 1 tier. Then we have our forte here in measure 3, measure 7. We also have forte at 15. And that section actually comes back at 55. And then we have another forte section at 31. And then we have some piano sections. We have a piano section at measure 11, which sounds a lot like it did over here. The difference is we have a counter melody now, and we got to play a lot softer, and we have no basses. We also have a piano section at measure 27. Of course, violas are mezzo forte. And we have another section at 55. Then we have a fortissimo section at 61. So that's a lot of dynamic contrast for a beginning piece, and the range of dynamic contrast is also pretty big for beginners. So how do we get our beginners to differentiate between piano, mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo? So my strategy that I came up with and put here in the teaching companion is that we practice the rhythms. And when we practice these rhythms, of course, we want to practice the rhythms, and it's like, okay, well, we've got a half note and 2 quarter notes. Where are we going to be in the bow? How much bow are we going to use? Can we all make those uniform, and can we all make those match? And once we're able to do that, okay, let's add some dynamics. Can we do the same thing, use the same uniformity, but play piano? Okay, can we do the same thing and play mezzo forte? Okay, how about forte? Okay, how about fortissimo? Can we play all the way through? Okay, great. Now let's move on to rhythm 2 and do the same thing. And it's not just going to get the students to think about the rhythm, when to play, or the bowing technique, where am I going to be in the bow, how much bow am I going to use? It's also going to get them to think about, well, how much weight am I going to be putting down? How much grip am I going to be using on the string? You don't need the teaching companion to do this. You can just break down these rhythms on your own and just say, okay, half note, quarter, quarter, half note, quarter, quarter, ready, go, and just have them bow it, and then give them instructions and specify what you want, and then change the dynamic levels once they get comfortable with that. You can break down any rhythm in this piece or any other piece for that matter and just make your own exercises. The reason why I put the teaching companions out there is because some people say, hey, can you just write this down for me so I've got everything? And sometimes they just print the score and they don't give the parts to the students. They just tell the students what to do and do it by rote. And I like to do things by rote too, because I like the students to watch me and be getting instructions from me, not just the music. I don't want them to have their heads buried in the music. I want them to watch me every now and again. And if I pass out the parts to the teaching companion, maybe they're not as likely to do that. But for some of them, I also like to pass out the parts because students get lost and they don't know what they're doing. Maybe once they get comfortable, okay, well, now we don't have to look so much at the music. We can look around and we can do our peer-to-peer coaching to get our heads out of the music and start looking at other people too. So there are ways that we can do it. It's just, where do you fall within that spectrum of rote teaching and got to have the sheet music? Well, that's why on teachingorchestra.com I have the sheet music, and it does take a little bit of time and effort to put these things together, so I do charge a little bit of money for it. But if you're a subscriber to the channel, and you go to the channel page, right? So you go down, you click on Teaching Orchestra, there's a video that comes up. And in that video, that video changes depending on whether you're a subscriber or you're not a subscriber. If you're a subscriber, it's a different video. And so you get the discount code in the subscriber video, but if you're not a subscriber, you don't get that code. So, save 50% off by subscribing to the channel and watching that video on the channel page. When we're troubleshooting our dynamics in Gaelic Castle or in any other piece, where do we tend to have problems? Is our orchestra usually too loud, or are they usually too soft? So most of the trouble that I have is that our orchestra's playing louder than it really should. Is piano really piano? And most of the time the answer is no. Every once in a while, they're not putting enough weight down, they're not using enough bow speed, they're not able to play loud. But the majority of the time, the students are playing too loud because it only takes one student to ruin a piano. If little Timmy is playing way too loud, the other students can't play extra soft to cover up Timmy when Timmy isn't paying attention. You know, we all know Timmy's being kind of a spaz lately, and his technique needs work, and he's just not being very detail oriented. So we got to get Timmy to be conscientious, pay attention to the technique, pay attention to what you're doing. You're playing too loud, Timmy. So how do we make Timmy aware? Okay, we have to provide some kind of accountability. So you can break this up with your peer-to-peer coaching also, and Timmy's stand partner is going to know whether Timmy is playing soft or not. And Timmy doesn't want to lose face in front of his stand partner, so Timmy's going to be extra careful and extra conscientious when playing for his peers. All right, I want to talk about accents, and we have some accents here starting at 19. So what are accents? You know, we're already forte, so what do the accents do? That's just forte plus? Well, we have at the end fortissimo and accents, so is that fortissimo plus? Do we have suddenly 7 tiers of dynamics instead of just 5? Well, I think that the accents here are just a difference in articulation. I don't think they're any louder or any softer just because they're accented. I just think that the articulations are supposed to be a little heavier. Well, in season 1, episode 12, I have an exercise called trampoline bows, and the episode's about articulation, and this is just one of the ways for the students to start thinking about articulation, how to start thinking about pushing down a little bit on the string so that they get a little bit of extra weight on the articulation to go along with that grip. Remember, weight is that vertical force, that vertical pressure that's coming down on the string, and grip is shearing force, so it's horizontal pressure. We need to have both. You have to be able to have grip to activate the string each time you bow, but how much weight goes down on the string? Well, trampoline bows can help students figure out how to put down a little bit of weight and feel that spring of the bow and feel the spring of the string so they know how to articulate and create those accents. Now we've got slurs here at 27. There's some slurs some other places too. You know, the first violins have it here at 31. But in any case, they're the same notes. It's slurred from G to A. And there's 2 different ways that we can slur. We can either slur to the open A or we can slur to the 4th finger A. And however you want to teach that is fine. It probably depends on the level of your orchestra. If you're teaching beginners and they're not quite comfortable with their 4th fingers yet, and you're doing this for a contest or you're doing this for a concert and they're not quite getting it, you want them to use the open strings. Okay, totally fine. But then they're going to have to work on string crossings, okay? Are their string crossings clean for the slurs? They're going to have to be really clean or else, you know, the rhythm's going to be uneven. I've got an exercise for that in season 1, episode 9. The exercise is called teeter-totters, and they can learn how to teeter-totter back and forth between the strings and really get some good bow control. In this, they're going to want to lead with the elbow instead of lead with the wrist. So you can watch that one and figure out, you know, how to drop the elbow, raise the elbow to get that string crossing. Really, they're crossing to the upper string. So what you are going to want to do is lower the elbow to go from the 3rd finger G to the A in the upper strings. And that exercise will help them develop the mechanics before they start adding the fingers. So what if you're going to be brave, you're going to go for that 4th finger? Well, you're still going to need to articulate on that slur, and the articulation is going to be coming from the 4th finger. So for that, I recommend finger tappers. And there's a demonstration video of that in season 1, episode 4. That's my video on vibrato of all things. But the finger tappers help develop flexibility in the hand that enables you to play vibrato. And really, there's some places in here where you can be practicing vibrato too. There's some half notes, you know, there's some fingered E's on the D string and some F sharps, and there's some fingered B's on the A string that are half notes. And you can just have them do a little wiggle on the half notes to get them start integrating vibrato into their concert music. So if they're working on finger tappers anyway, because you're having them work with vibrato, and the earlier you can work with vibrato, the better, because vibrato is a technique that develop some accountability for the left hand. If your left hand shape is not good, if you're playing like this, or basses, cellos, basses, you're dropping your elbow, it's really difficult to play with vibrato. So by teaching your students vibrato early, you're doing them a big favor because they're developing good technique with the left hand. So you're working with your students on vibrato and you're doing all these exercises, and then you take it to the concert music. Well, are the students still vibrating in their concert music, or are they giving up on it because they're focused on all these other things? Well, again, we can use our peer-to-peer coaching. Okay, inside players, outside players, you guys watch. Let's play through this section here and see if they're vibrating on the half notes. Ready, go. Their stand partners are going to tell them really quickly whether they're vibrating or not, and they're going to start developing some awareness and some accountability, so they're more likely to vibrate. In the next video, we're going to talk about common problems. These are things that I hear over and over again as an adjudicator, when I'm at a festival or at a competition or an evaluation. I hear the same things over and over again, so I'm going to point out the spots that I hear that usually don't go well, and I'm going to try to give some strategies on how to make those better. So hope to see you in the next video.